Hey guys, independent Amsoil dealer Chad Frank. Sorry I'm outside. Just got done with the project. Fuel filter housing. So, M999, M998, Humvee, whatever you want to call it. That's what we are. An M998 right there. So I was a pickup model. Converting 4-door. Got a seat in the back right there. So she seats, you think of a truck, 6-seater, 3 and 3. It's actually so wide, it's 4 and 2. So boom, bada bing, but that's finally mounted. Got seatbelts and everything. The kids got that one lost. There we go. Boom. DOT regulated. Actually goes anchor points, which later I did research in '94 when the H1 Hummer was released to the civilians. Then that's those anchor points became the seatbelt points. But for the military truck, they're made to hold down a bunch of cargo and ratchet strap to. But back to the fuel filter housing. So pretty cool. I guess I'll start here. This is the Humvees fuel filter. So it's a canister, and or it's not. It's a cartridge filter, and then you gotta undo these 3 bolts. Come down. There's an O-ring and a filter, and this just goes to take your fuel samples. But I'm gonna talk. You see some of my other videos too, my IDIs, and which this is an IDI. It's just a Detroit as opposed to international. Detroit ran with GM and Chevy, and International has run with Ford. So boom bada bing. But so this goes back, if you see my old videos of my Ford IDIs, in out sensor, boom, too easy. That eliminates a lot of your problems. So anyhow, I'm here in Iowa. Pretend I actually get a 4-man top and 4 doors for this Humvee, because right now I just enjoy it in the summer and run the river, or putz around with the kids. And so imagine 0 degrees and you're gelled, and you got to come out here and tinker with these 3 bolts, an O-ring, and a cartridge filter because you gelled or whatever, and you wanted to spin the filter off, dump it out, throw some diesel treat or 911 or recovery, or especially AMSOIL. Definitely use our recovery, and maybe you wouldn't be gelling in the first place if you'd ran our anti-gel to start with. Now here's the old, so that's Humvees. This is a 7.3 Ford IDI one. And in one of my videos, you saw that I switched back to the 6.9 because the top looked more like that. But what we did today, we removed that from the Humvee. And so I'm not that guy in the middle of winter messing around with an O-ring and a cartridge filter. I done mounted me a normal spin-on filter. I just simply browsed eBay till I found the one that had the least ports possible. This one has 2 in accesses and 2 out accesses. So what I did is, so we got our 3/8 line in, boop, right there, coming in from the lift pump on the side of the block like any other small block Chevy or early 90s, 80s lift pump. So that's your lift pump. It provides volume and low PSI to feed the high PSI pressure pump. So anyhow, 1 in, and then in the sensor there, if the filter starts to plug, the actual Humvee sensor, I had to buy one, it's real hard to see, but one fitting. Humvee went on the other end. So I got my in, I got my sensor, a pipe plug, plugged the other out, and then my regular out goes right to the high pressure pump, right there in the heart of the engine. So where it can run the hottest. That's a joke. Now I'm gonna move around to the other side. We'll come around. See if I can get you a good picture. So these Humvees, they have a doghouse like an old Econoline or Chevy van. So I got the doghouse off. It wasn't a terrible job. It was because I was doing it on a 90-degree day in my driveway. And rule number 1, whenever you're messing with an old IDI fuel line, fuel filter, anything fuel related, you want that thing warmed up so you have a hot start. So that didn't help hovering over a 210 engine, and predominantly where I wanted to set my arm every time was on the hot alternator too, because it was my balance point. But there's our fitting, so if I can show you, that's fuel in, that's the sensor that belongs to the Humvee. So then boom bada bing, fuel out, and on the opposing side of the housing there's another out for multiple angles to be mounted. I just pipe plugged it. So boom bada bing. I'll even get you that part number. It is 86123, and then this housing is, it's actually a GM product. Guy on eBay had like 53 of them, so I bought one. It's aluminum, it's finned, so all that good stuff. But yeah, so that's what I did today. A little couple hour project. The other cool part is, it is, because it's a GM product, it's actually, this is where your old crappy Humvee one mounted, but because of the length of the new canister and being able to have to turn thread down and get down past your nipple and pull it out, I had to drill 2 new holes, but they're tucked up there to where you don't even notice them. And these little black plastic plugs, get me 2, rattle can them, whatever I want to do. Rubber for noise dampening. There was a foam pad out on the inside here. I cut it out, but anyhow, so call this whatever, air intrusion fuel, changing a Humvee fuel filter. Yeah, I changed everything. I changed the filter and the housing. Boom, bada bing. Now, with an oil filter wrench, I just grab it, twist it off, sneak it out of there so I spill as less fuel as possible, and then always, always, always fill up your new filter as full as you can and put it on there. I personally, because if it was just the filter and every line was primed, but also my inline, after I put this on there, it wasn't long enough, so I had to get new hose. This dribbled for 2 hours. This is brand new hose. The housing was new. The filter was new. And it, like I said, it all sat there and dribbled and got a big old air bubble. So then from there, what you got to do, it's not quite like bleeding brakes, but you got to crack the other orifice. If you actually look at the Humvee one, that after you change this filter, you're supposed to loosen this screw and crank until fuel runs out the head of the filter. That primes that, and then if your truck still won't start, which I had to do, I had to go to the car wash, but down right there and there are injectors. So I had to take a wrench and I had to loosen those injectors because I don't have a bleeder now, but I could have made one. I could have bought like a T fitting here. Instead of a 90, I could have bought a T and put a pipe plug in there. So when I want to bleed, I could take the pipe plug out, bleed and prime the filter housing. But I had, like I said, I had the engine hot and I had more air than just a normal filter change. So I cranked it, it rumbled. That told me it used all the fuel in the line, and then I cranked some more and it wouldn't start, so shit. So I had to call my dad. Dad come over and cranked this thing while I cracked the line. So I cracked those 2, he cranked it, it started running. Of course, which time it really starts spraying fuel out, like psh, 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 psh. And because of this bracket, it kind of sucks. So told him shut it off, tighten the lines, but she started right back up, rumbling, good as new. So that's not only a spin on filter and housing conversion on a Humvee. At least you're seeing how to change the old filter outside too. I just told you, you take the 3 screws out, you loosen your bracket that holds that thing, and pull the cap off, pull your filter out, and then put your filter in, and then fill it with fuel. And we'd actually use tranny fluid in the motor pool when I was a little 63B for the National Guard. We just filled it up with tranny fluid. These things will run on transmission fluid. And then, yeah, but then you got to wrestle that O-ring in its little groove and stuff. And it's not bad if you have time and everything, but for Midwest and modern day, it's not modern. This is modern. So, boom, bada bing. It's an upgrade. Easier, convenient. I'd say that filter's better and newer, and it's easier to come by. I don't even know the part number off the top of my head for the other filter, but I know CarQuest actually has this in 4 different varieties. It has regular filter with no petcock to drain water. I bought the one with the petcock to drain water, so there's 2. Short, no petcock, short petcock, and then they have long, no petcock. So lots of options for this head right here. So anyhow, there's the Peak Ski. Hope you enjoyed. Independent Am's oil dealer, or Chad Franks, if you need to buy any of those diesel additives or any of the oil that you saw me change the oil in the fire department's Humvee, or etc., etc. Charles Franks, use me as your referral. It'll, when you go to make a purchase, it'll say, are you working with the dealer? Find me on Facebook. Happy to answer any questions I can that you might have that pertain to an old IDI, a Humvee, or Am's oil. I don't know it all. I know quite a bit. I wouldn't even say a lot. But what I know I can speak for because I knew it and I learned it. So use me for what I know. Thanks. Bye.